As nightfall was closely approaching, Andrew was on the lookout for a corn maze. However, to his surprise, what appeared to be a vampire jumped down from an old tree and started to come after him. This would be yet another test of his swordsman skills. While Andrew took a defensive position, the supposed vampire took a swipe at him. As he dodged the attack, the vampire's head began to change colors. This was now a confirmed vampire. Would Andrew be able to survive this? Might this stop him from bringing the Elder the news? In his mind, there was only one real good option for the situation at this point. That option could be summed up in one word. Run! Andrew quickly dashed into the cornfields and found a trail. He had to hurry, as he did not want to become the vampire's dinner. Quickly through the cornfields, Andrew ran. He moved as if his life was on the line, and it was. By nightfall, he finally approached a bridge that his alternative route map had shown. Hurry, hurry, he told himself. Andrew would not dare look behind, for he was worried that it would slow him down. As he crossed the bridge, the thought occurred to him that he might have finally escaped from the vampire. Nevertheless, he was going to be vigilant, in case something happened again. By midnight, Andrew had finished the corn maze and found a path that headed back to the village. In a couple of hours, he would be back. As Andrew continued on the trail, he was getting closer. Would the Elder still be awake? If not, he could always tell him the next day. What Andrew saw next made his jaw drop. The village was on fire. While he watched in agony, many thoughts began to run through his head. How could this happen? What if he had made it back earlier? Who had done this? Was the Elder safe? Where was the Elder? What to think? What had just happened? Andrew's long day was getting on him, and he became tired. He could not sleep in the village, though. The stress of what had just happened to him as he walked around the fields in a state of awe. He was in a complete daze. Soon he fell asleep in the fields. There would be no dreams this time as he went into a deep sleep, not to wake up until sunrise. Soon the sun rose, awaking Andrew from his deep sleep. As he awoke, he wondered if the village had really burned down. Or maybe, just maybe, this was just another strange dream. Andrew quickly headed back to the village, hoping that the fire was just a dream. He would have no such luck, as most of the village had burned down to the ground. Since his home was destroyed, he would have no choice but to head back to Rotciv Castle. Where was the Elder? While heading back to the castle, Andrew realized that he could not stay on his original path. If the bridge was down yesterday, it was probably still down today. It appeared that the best option was to take the alternative route through the cornfields. What about the vampire? As he walked toward the bridge, nervous thoughts began to race through Andrew's head. Who had burned down the village? Was it the vampire or someone else? What had happened to the other bridge? Was Rotciv Castle in danger again? What was the source of power that these enemies were seeking? While heading toward the end of the corn trail, Andrew could not see any vampires. However, rain clouds were fast approaching. Now it was raining hard and fast. Andrew grabbed his shield and began to use it as an umbrella. As he approached the troll bridge, Andrew noticed that the troll guarding it was gone. Nevertheless, he had to hurry before the river would overflow. Quickly, he hurried across the bridge. In the background, the thunder was becoming louder. Now, he was halfway back to Rotciv Castle. By the time he reached the woods, the rain had finally subsided. Fortunately, his shield had kept it from getting wet. Regardless, he had to hurry on to tell the king the news. Maybe the king could help him figure out what had just happened earlier in the day. Due to the speed of his journey, Andrew was able to reach Rotciv Castle just before nightfall. Despite the fact that Andrew was tired, he knew that he must hurry to tell the king what had happened. Andrew rushed up to the king's chamber once again. When the king answered, he was told about everything. Everything including the bridge being broken, dealing with trolls, seeing a vampire, the village being burnt down, and the Elders' Disappearance. He finished by explaining that he was trying to find out who was behind this. The king responded by calling for his guard. Then he said, "Do not worry, for we have a fairly good idea as to who is behind this all. Everything from the prisoner escaping to..." Andrew interrupted.
"Prisoner escaped,"
the king continued, "to the bridge getting wrecked, the village getting burned down, to the troll being attacked. We finally put it all together with a little help." Andrew responded,
"That's great. So who did this?"
The king answered slowly, "You! Guard, please take him away." The guard replied, "Yes, your majesty." Andrew replied,
"Are you kidding me? Is this some kind of joke?"
However, it was all to no avail, as the guard took him off to prison. While the guard was escorting him to the prison, Andrew was still in disbelief. What exactly was going on? First the bridge, then the village, and now this? His king was essentially accusing him of treason. This could not be real. Could it? While Andrew was going to prison, the queen walked into the king's chamber and asked if anything was wrong. The king replied, "Not anymore. I figured out who was behind our problems."
Who?
The queen asked. The king answered, "Andrew from the village. He burnt down the village, wrecked the bridge, and attacked the troll. This amounts to treason and he will be dealt with shortly."
Treason, that sounds dangerous. So are we safe now?
Asked the queen. The king answered with a smile, "It was dangerous, but we certainly are safe now, thanks to a secret informant of ours."
Well, that is good. Now I can get some rest for the night.
Responded the queen. While the queen was leaving the chamber, the king answered, "Yes, we can all rest safely now." Meanwhile, down in the prison, Andrew was still trying to make sense over what had just happened to him. Was there a way to make sense of this at all? He tried to explain himself to the guard, who promptly ignored him and went into the other room. Now, things were even worse than he had initially thought. At least he had plenty of time to think about it in his cell. Or did he? As he stood in his cell, Andrew wondered what he would do. His sword and shield had already been taken from him. The prison guard completely ignored him, so stealing the prison key would not be an option. What about picking the prison lock? Unfortunately, he was not a locksmith. A locksmith could probably have picked this lock within a few minutes. However, most locksmiths are usually not good with weapons and are not capable of fighting their way out of this prison. While he kept thinking of ways to get out, he came up with another question. Meanwhile, in the other room, the guard began to wonder what had happened to the king. 2 days ago, Andrew was an ally from a local village discussing his dreams about an elder. Now he was in prison. Worse yet, a prisoner had escaped, and he had no clue as to what had happened. Was Andrew really that dangerous? Well, he could never second-guess the king, and certainly did not want to lose his job after what had happened with the prisoner.